When we watch a movie, TV show, or a play, we know that the actors probably learned their lines from a script, which essentially tells them what to say and when to say it. A piece of written music operates on exactly the same principle. In a very basic sense, it tells a performer what to play and when to play it. Aesthetically speaking, there is a world of a difference between, say, Mozart and Beyoncé, but both artists have used the same building blocks to create their music: rhythm and pitch. And although the end result can sound quite complicated, the logic behind musical notes is actually pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at the foundational elements to music notation and how they interact to create a work of art. Music is written on 5 parallel lines that go across the page. These 5 lines are called a stave, and a stave operates on 2 axes, up and down and left to right. The up and down axis tells the performer the pitch of the note or what note to play, and the left to right axis tells the performer the rhythm of the note or when and how long to play it. Pitch is a term we use to describe how low or high sounds are. All sounds are caused by vibrations, and when those vibrations occur at a fairly consistent frequency, we hear them as musical tones. Sounds that don't have a precise musical tone are referred to as having indefinite pitch, or more commonly, noise. Now let's talk about pitches a bit more. The system works for pretty much any instrument you can think of. In the Western music tradition, pitches are named after the first 7 letters of the alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. After that, the cycle repeats itself: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and so on. But how do these pitches get their names? Well, for example, if you played an F and then played another F higher or lower, you'd notice that they sound pretty similar compared to, say, a B. Going back to the stave, every line and every space between 2 lines represents a separate pitch. If we put a note on one of these lines or in one of these spaces, we're telling a performer to play that pitch. The higher up the stave a note is placed, the higher the pitch. But there are obviously many, many more pitches than the 9 that these lines and spaces give us. A grand piano, for example, can play 88 separate notes. So how do we condense 88 notes onto a single stave? Well, we use something called a clef, which is a weird-looking figure placed at the beginning of the stave, which acts like a reference point telling you that a particular line or space corresponds to a specific note on your instrument. This is a treble clef. Our treble clef tells us what pitches correspond to our lines and spaces. And remember, the higher up the stave you go, the higher the pitch of the note. And we can use rhymes and words to help us remember what pitch goes where on the stave. The bottom line is E. The next line is G, then B, D, and F. Now let's put words to these letters to help us remember. Every good boy deserves football. Even green buses drive fast. Elephants go bonkers drinking Fanta. You could come up with your own if it helps you remember. Now let's look at the spaces. The bottom space is F. The next is A, then C, and then E. Now this one's easy to remember. For notes in a space, think of your face. Now, as for telling a performer when to play the notes, 2 main elements control this: the beat and the rhythm. The beat of a piece of music is by itself kind of boring, but it's like the heartbeat of the music. It usually doesn't change much, it just plugs along quite happily. It can go slow or fast or whatever you like, really. The point is that just like the second hand on a clock divides 1 minute into 60 seconds, with each second just as long as every other second, the beat divides a piece of music into little fragments of time that are all the same length, beats. With a steady beat as a foundation, we can add rhythms to our pitches, and that's when the music really starts to happen. This is a crotchet note. It's the most basic unit of rhythm, and it's worth 1 beat. This is a minim note, and it's worth 2 beats. This semi-breve note here is worth 4 beats. And these little guys are quaver notes, worth half a beat each. Great, you say, what does that mean? Well, you might have noticed that across the length of a stave, there are little lines dividing it into smaller sections. These are bar lines, and we refer to each section as a bar. At the beginning of a piece of music, just after the clef, is something called the time signature, which tells a performer how many beats are in each bar. This says that there are 2 beats in each bar. This says that there are 3, this one 4, and so on. The bottom number tells us what kind of note is to be used as the basic unit for the beat. 1 corresponds to a semi-breve note, 2 to a minim note, 4 to a crotchet, and 8 to a quaver, and so on. So this time signature here tells us that there are 4 crotchet beats in each bar. But like I said before, if we just stick to the beat, it gets kind of boring, so we'll replace some crotchet notes with different rhythms. Notice that even though the number of notes in each bar has changed, the total number of beats in each bar hasn't. All of these elements combined help us to create and read all different styles of music, from classical to rap to heavy metal. Sure, it takes some practice to get used to reading it quickly and playing what we see on our instrument, but with a bit of time and patience, you will learn, and who knows, maybe you could even be the next Mozart or Beyoncé.